You know, I'm a strict constitutionalist. Are you suggesting the Republicans should write me off because I'm a strict constitutionalist? All come together, and we shouldn't have that many disagreements because we should be bound down by the Constitution.
Why don't we just open up the Constitution and read it? But technically speaking, they ask me, are they constitutional? No, where is the authority? I don't know where the authority is.
You know, I wonder what I'd look like with a douchebaggy John Waters mustache. Like a douchebag. A lot of hardline libertarian conservatives have, as of late, taken to calling themselves constitutionalists. You especially see this term coming from Ron Paul and his ilk. Oftentimes, the word constitutionalist is modified by the word strict. I'm a strict constitutionalist. Which, to me, is like walking around saying, I'm a premature ejaculator. I mean, not that those two things are in any way connected, but for some reason, in my stupid mind, there is a connection. It just sounds like the same kind of person, doesn't it? Hi, I'm a premature ejaculator and a strict constitutionalist. A constitutionalist is someone who holds that the federal government should stick closely to the Constitution. And when Ron Paul opposes corporate regulations, when he opposes Social Security, when he opposes Medicaid and Medicare, he does so because they're unconstitutional, not just because he doesn't like them. Like, you guys know how the Christians say, I'm against abortion because, you know, God. And I'm against gays because, you know, God. You know, we can't be regulating those corporations because we don't have authority under the Constitution. You know, we can't be doing all these social safety nets because we don't have authority under the Constitution. So, you know, here's a strange little question that occurs to me. Is Ron Paul a constitutionalist because the Constitution is right? Or is the Constitution right in Ron Paul's eyes because he's a constitutionalist? In other words, which premise is more believable? The Constitution is perfect in every way and cannot be improved upon, or constitutionalists are treating an imperfect document written over 2 centuries ago as if it were infallible. Which of those two things is more likely? I think the latter. Maybe you think the former. Hey, you have every right to be stupid. It's fine. Think about it. If you're a strict constitutionalist, that means that you think it makes sense that Wyoming, with about 550,000 people, should have 2 senators representing it, and that California, with a population of about 37 million, should have 2 senators representing it. In the United States Senate, 550,000 people have the same share of power in the Senate as 37 million. If you break down the exact numbers, that means that every Wyomingian or Wyominian, I don't know, has the voting power of about 66 Californians when it comes to representation in the Senate. Does that seem like infallible planning of perfect geniuses with absolute prescience? Doesn't to me. Maybe it does to you. But like I said, you have every right to be stupid. To say that you're a strict constitutionalist is to say that the Supreme Court justices should be appointed for life. Because what you really want from the highest court in the land is that they be accountable to no one. Why not have term limits? You know, you're a judge for 10 years. You get to be the most powerful fuck in the country for 10 years. You know, I mean, because really, in a lot of ways, the Supreme Court is less tethered, you know, and constrained even than the president. So, you know, you could look at those guys as being more powerful than the president in some ways. And they don't have term limits. They can just be that indefinitely. Why? How does that make sense? I thought this was a system of checks and balances, and yet there's no one to check or balance these fuckers. I mean, you can get one out of there if you impeach them, but that's no fucking cakewalk. A lot of people conflate the Constitution with freedom. But was that really the intent of the authors and the architects? I mean, when farmers protested Alexander Hamilton's whiskey tax under George Washington, Washington didn't say, well, it's their constitutional right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. No, he sent a big-ass fucking militia to take those motherfuckers down. These protesters were the Tea Party of their day. They were out there protesting higher taxes. And the Founding Fathers and constitutional authors, George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, sent troops to suppress them, to shut them the fuck up. Okay, obviously I'm oversimplifying there. Everyone should go read about the Whiskey Rebellion on their own and learn about the complexities of what happened. And we should also remember that Thomas Jefferson, another founder, repealed the whiskey tax as soon as he took office. But that's the point. That's the point. Or do I have a point? I do have a point. I do have a point. The point is this. These guys, the Founding Fathers, were not infallible. They were not prescient. They didn't always agree on everything. They were just as petty and just as squibbling as today's politicians. Well, maybe not quite as much, but still pretty fucking petty and squibbling. And like the politicians today, they came to compromises, oftentimes stupid ones. Think about this. To be a constitutionalist is to fail to recognize that these guys weren't all on the same page. It's a failure to recognize that the Constitution is a compromise. It was debated, concessions were made, visions were watered down. None of the founders thought that the Constitution was perfect. So why should we? Does Ron Paul really believe that a bunch of rich, white, male slave owners 250 years ago were infallible and prescient? Does he believe that they created a document so perfect that it doesn't need to be adjusted for things like the advent of freeing the slaves, or women's rights, or modern weapons, or mass media, or, giant scientific leaps, new revelations about the human mind and its workings? To me, folks, that doesn't sound like rationality. When you say that we should be faithful to an ancient document and ignore the fact that some of it no longer applies to the modern world, that's a religion. And I'm not a religious man. I'm the amazing atheist. Peace the fuck out. Actually, as a bit of an addendum, I feel like I should point out that Ron Paul is actually not against changing the Constitution, but he thinks that the only way you should be able to change the Constitution is through constitutional means, in other words, a constitutional amendment. And the level of consensus you have to have for a constitutional amendment is insane. So, basically, any changes that happen in this country would be extremely, excruciatingly slow. And our government is already unresponsive enough. I don't think we need to make it even slower. Thomas Jefferson said, fuck all that amendment shit. We should rewrite the Constitution every 19 years. The living should be governed by the living, not the dead. And Thomas Jefferson's ass has been dead for more than 200 fucking years. We don't need to be living by his rules anymore, and even he knew that. So let's get rid of the old Constitution and get a newer, better one in there, but not with this current Senate and Congress. We gotta get those fuckers gone first, because until we get rid of them, we need some fucking line of defense, and I guess the current Constitution is better than nothing.